I straightened my hair, dressed a certain way, and did everything I could to fit in with my white peers. The only thing I had left I could have done to fit into was to bleach my skin. Growing up in Skaneateles, I was surrounded by a lot of good. Looking around from where I'm standing right now, I see a beautiful lake and shops owned by local kind people who can recognize most faces that walk by their stores. That can't be said of every town. I was surrounded by many people who looked nothing like me. I began to accustom myself to what I thought was the acceptable look, white. When I was a baby, I was adopted by an amazing set of parents. They have been and continue to be there for me every second of every day, making sure I feel loved and accepted, even though we aren't the same race. I grew up being told to love myself for who I was and who I wanted to become, but I always felt like there were pieces missing on understanding where I came from, and I did not realize the strength behind being a woman of color in a predominantly white community. Looking back on my many years of schooling at Skaneateles Schools District, I realized I was given a solid education in many subjects, such as math and science. But my education fell short when it came to learning about different races and how they are all individually important to society. Having been adopted, I was never fully immersed in Black culture. That came into play both at home and at school. I vividly remember being in one of my middle school classes, learning about slavery and feeling so uncomfortable. I wanted to hop out of my own body, just for a second. I can still picture the eyes on me and hear the comments from some of my classmates, asking whether or not I would have been in the field picking cotton. I never thought twice about how toxic and diminishing these comments truly were, and I never saw how badly these comments attributed to how I saw myself moving forward. Heading into high school and up until I left for college, I started to see my color blindness blur at the edges. I had encountered experiences with other classmates and people who I thought were my friends treat me less than. The use of the N-word and my race were held over my head in an attempt to hurt me. What's worse? The same people who were tearing me down with disgusting and hurtful comments were the same people apologizing a day later, asking if what they said wasn't blatantly racist. The breaking point for me was when I stood in the kitchen of a friend's house, surrounded by people who I thought respected me, just to have them turn on a song with the lyrics reading, "I hate N," well, you know where this is going. It was at that very moment that I began to see the difference between the people who accepted me for my character versus the people who only saw me for the color of my skin. Going into college, it was as if my skin turned black right before my eyes. I felt as if I was finally in an environment where I could not only be myself, but embrace and feel comfortable in my own skin. The first class I enrolled in upon my arrival to Drexel University in Philadelphia was Race, Ethnicity, and Social Inequality. While taking this class, my eyes were open to a culture I never learned about, my culture. I embraced every lecture, voicing how I felt growing up in a predominantly white community. I finally was in a space in which everyone was accepted and invited to embrace each unique culture. It was also outside the classroom that I was immersed in diversity as a whole, learning from my new friends who had come from as far as Japan. As I come back into my hometown Skaneateles, I now have a mission for those kids who are feeling the same way that I felt. I want to push for not only a more diverse education, but for young people of color to feel they have a voice in this community. Growing up, no one should feel as though they are valued less by not being able to learn about their race's past, history, and culture. Seeing and embracing color is productive in elevating Black culture and lifting Black voices. Black lives, Black pain, and Black tears matter. So instead of silencing our voices, let them be heard and felt by all so that change is finally made. Thank you.